Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke with Reverend Yutaka Yamada, today being Thursday, the 8th of July, or the 29th of May in the 9th year of Chongluguk. Let's begin by offering a bow to our Heavenly Parents and True Parents. Chariot, Tombe, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가족맨세 3. 전일국 주인 우리 가정은 참 사랑들을 중심하고 4대 심정권과 3대 왕권과 환족권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 3. Our family, the owner of Chongluguk, pledges to perfect the 4 great realms of heart, the 3 great kingships, and the realm of the royal family by centering on true love. So I'd like to ask Catherine in New Zealand if she could offer the opening prayer today. Thank you.
Right. Good morning, let's pray together. Good morning, our most beloved Heavenly Parents, most beloved true parents of heaven and earth and humankind. We gather here again this morning for Hondoke to start our day with you and with one another. We treasure this time that we can learn to understand you more deeply and understand each other more deeply and share our hearts more deeply and clearly. Heavenly Father, the distance between the different islands, the different countries we're living in, that this can bring us together so clearly and understand one another. Sometimes we haven't met each other, but we can see each other through the Zoom. It's a great technology that we can use for our advantage and for your advantage, Heavenly Parents. We've been thoroughly enjoying and the dedication and heart that Reverend Yamada is putting into preparing each day for us something new and something special and exciting to look forward to. And as he's preparing Mother's speeches and bringing in different other little things which make it so much more live and so artistic. Heavenly Father, we ask you to please be here with us, with each one today, as we share together and look forward to the time that we can really truly support our true Mother with all our heart and soul. Thank you for this time together, and we offer it up to you with our heart and gratitude always, as I pray in the name of all the blessed families gathered here today. Adieu.
Adieu. Thank you. So let's welcome our Reverend Yutaka as he shares this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, our brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining Morning Hondoke. Today is July 8th. New day will begin from now. So centering on our Heavenly Parents and True Parents and our sharing and devotion and prayer, let's create great, beautiful day today. So thank you for joining. Yesterday we had Anshi-il, so our Reverend Abel, the national leader of Vanuatu, shared a great message. So after COVID situation, surely Vanuatu will develop. That's determination and conviction is great. Of course, now many challenging is coming, but surely those things is the preparation moment. And they keep the energy and they prepare everything, plan everything, and they go forward. And even this situation, there is God's will, and there is also the special person or special things which are prepared by God already. So always we will seek that and find those messages and fulfill that. And yesterday is the first day of ILC. I saw many of you are attending yesterday's ILC. So there are many kind of discussion was held, happened, centering on unification of Korean Peninsula. So many speakers also shared the message. Many topics was also shared well. Some topic talking about the role of China. And also there are some participants also asking, then what's the role of China? What is good point for China to cooperate about the unification between North and South Korea? And also some speaker said, yes, China have a good relationship with North Korea and a good relationship with South Korea. That's why China can fulfill some important role. And also another topic talking about cooperation among the 6 countries centering on Korean Peninsula, Korea, North Korea, South Korea, of course, and China, Russia, and Japan, and United States. How those 6 nations support well. And also some people also questioning to the speaker, how to solve the differences about differences of the ideology differences between North and South Korea. So they are also talking those things. And some also said, inside of South Korea, there are many differences, have to unite inside of South Korea first. So those things also. And also the sunshine, what is that? Project, sunshine project. So, and also politics and local and culture differences, religious differences, how we can approach this unification process. And also the last question of yesterday, Reverend Kenji was also the one of the moderator, also talking about because of the division of Korean Peninsula, actually, whose advantage is this? Who is good? Who is wish the Korean Peninsula is keeping the separation? So some nation also wishing Korea to be separated, right? And some group is wishing to be united. So those discussion was happen. So standing point of China, standing point of Japan, standing point Russia, America, really all nations, all people's thinking is involving centering on Korean Peninsula. That's why yesterday, really interesting and enjoy to hear the several experts' opinion and sharing. And also our leader also share about True Parents' vision and guidance. Today's the 2nd day, and we could see and we could learn many view and also understand the expert message, especially our Reverend Stone become one of the moderator. So I hope today, 2nd day, we can learn together. So please join and share our heart together. Okay, so let's continue our True Mother's autobiography. This Mother of Peace. So last session we are sharing about, True Mother is sharing about part of United Nations involvement to the Korean War. So from 16 nations and also 22 nations, they support this United Nations troop and to support Korean, South Korea and try to support Korean Peninsula. And also because of them, our True Parents was also the protected because that time True Father inside of Hunan prison and True Mother was also in Korea, that time in Seoul. So because of UN, True Parents were protected and also guided well. And in the same time, True Mother is now proclaiming and suggesting to the United Nations and also the people to establish 5th UN office in DMZ and to make a global peace park. This is really international vision, not only for Korean Peninsula itself. This is also show as the vision for the world. Even there are many kind of problem, struggling or conflict but really unity inside of our community is really important. And also last time our Dr. Joshinta mentioned that in the 1950 Korean War, even 16 nations attended as the UN troop, but actually that time some Oceania nation was under another country like United States or French, and some of them attended as the American soldier or another country's soldier. They are also the Korean veteran. So really, this is important point. We didn't think so much. Only we are talking about the 16 nation or 22 nation to support Korean Peninsula, and this is the Korean War. But our Oceania country, they are also supporting that time. So we have to really recognize, and we have to research that how people are treating them, how government, Korean government or American government, how they are treating those Korean War veteran. They are also supporting and saving our three parents' life and also Korean Peninsula. That's why each nation, we have to research those things. Really, how many people or what kind of situation about Korean War, and how about Korean War veteran? Then we have to appreciate, we have to visit them, representative of three parents and the leader of each nation and each also the region. So this is really important. So I hope each nation please research. Then also I can report the situation. So not only 16 country, maybe can add more another country together, right? If someone also even under America, but they support Korean War, those things is important, and another nation also. So each leader, please research, and also please let me know. So let's continue our okay. So this is also next topic. Trimada is sharing about putting peace into practice. I will read this. In our peace message, Father Moon and I advocated that all humanity participate in the cross-cultural marriage blessing. The cross-cultural marriage blessing is by far the best way to restore humanity to become the children of God. Grandparents from enemy nations or religion will unite through the beautiful grandchildren they share in common. So now Mother is sharing about a cross-cultural marriage blessing in this chapter. So different culture, different nation, and also the cross-cultural marriage blessing. This is only by carried on, only by done by our Messiah and true parents who know the original purpose of God. How about marriage? Marriage is one of the most important event in our life. True Father also mentioning there are three important events in our life. One is born in the world. One is death, die in this world. And what is another one? Another one is the marriage. The three special event we have in our life. So marriage is one of the important event in our life. But how about the blessing? Blessing meaning is not for you to find your spouse by yourself. And also, what's the blessing, vision of the blessing? We will get married with the person in the enemy nations. So if we don't have a Messiah, if we don't have true parents, if we don't have God, do you think this kind of marriage is possible? To find the enemy and find the person who I don't know in the past. Just meet first time, just meet enemy nations people and get married and live forever. Do you think this kind of things is possible? If true parents is not Messiah and true parents it's really impossible. If there is no vision of God, if there is no vision of heaven, just centering on our own thinking, own purpose, own benefit, this is really impossible things. To offer whole life to heaven, offer whole life to God. That's why this blessing was carried on. So true parents is carrying this cross-cultural marriage blessing. So I think I know almost most of you receive blessing, and maybe many of you are also the international blessing, a cultural, a cross-cultural marriage blessing. Even you didn't know your spouse before, right? And suddenly Father called you and meet each other. Already the person became your spouse, your husband and wife forever. So really this blessing movement is great things. And after receiving blessing, there are many kind of episodes, but overcome and embrace, enduring and loving each other. And finally, we are here now. So really blessing history is great. You could see that. That is the ideal, and like all ideals, it takes work to realize. In Korea, one heart, there are more and more multicultural families, but their lives do not appear to be getting easier. The person next to him agrees, saying many children are ridiculed by schoolmates because their mother is from another country. Not only that, another person will chime in. It is not uncommon for brides from overseas to give up and return to their native countries. So, this didn't change? Yes, maybe I will read again. That is the ideal. Oh, wait. Okay. So that is the ideal, and like all ideals, it takes work to realize. In Korea, one hears there are more and more multicultural families, but their lives do not appear to be getting easier. The person next to him agrees, saying many children are ridiculed by schoolmates because their mother is from another country. Not only that, another person will chime in. It is not uncommon for brides from overseas to give up and return to their native countries. So even there are many international marriage cases in Korea before, but their life is not easy. And also our blessing couple, how about our blessed couple, international marriage blessing couple, their life is easy or not? Even people believe Messiah and believe this ideal, but this relationship itself is not created automatically without effort. This realistic effort is important. So this also mother is sharing. This mother is sharing is maybe common social international couple situation. And also some situation is also our blessed couple in Korea. This international marriage and also this multicultural family life is actually not easy. So many people is talking about. So our blessing situation and international couple is also many kind of challenging happening, and also in the society many family issue was also happening together. That's why what is really important things, when we see the society, the divorce rate is more than 50%. That's why if 10%, we have a 10 friend, already 5 of them are divorced. That is a social situation. But how about the situation of blessing? Even they don't know each other before, they met first time, even they meet enemy nation's person, but the divorce rate is really, really low. They really meet each other and commit each other, and they keep their family and blessing. Then what's the special point? Our marriage in the society and our blessing. What is the main different point? There are several internal point and external point, many point, but one of the main educational or important point is this. When we see our marriage, what is our, when we see our social marriage, what is their motivation? Why they get marriage? Do you know our friend or our neighbors, our society, why they get married? Because people usually think, I want to get love. I want to be happy. I want to joy. I want to get joy from my spouse, my wife, and my husband. That's why if I cannot get love, if I cannot get joy with this person, then what's happened? I want to get married. I want to get love. I want to get joy, but my husband doesn't give joy. My wife doesn't love me. Then it's better to divorce together. This is good for each other because you don't love me. I don't love you. I'm not happy with you. You are not happy with me. Then what is better choice for us? Realistically, practically, it's better to divorce. So this is the social situation. So more than 50%, even they commit, even they determine in the wedding ceremony, I love you forever. But after 7 days, after 10 days, after a few months, they determine to divorce. This is the social issue currently. Then many people lose the purpose and could not fulfill, then divorce. Then how about blessing? Blessing is same situation or different situation. Main point is different motivation. This blessing is not for myself. Of course, there is some meaning of myself, but this is more than myself. This is for God's purpose, God's wishes, and also for the object partners. Of course, I want to receive love. I want to be happy, but what is our attitude? Attitude is to give love and support love and give joy to others. This is the main motivation. That's why live for others, live for my husband, live for my wife, sacrifice those things. So what's our motivation? Motivation is for centering for ourselves or centering for God or others. This is the big different point between blessing and between social marriage. So maybe most of you got blessing already and live together. So how about your heart to your husband and toward your wife? If, and I share those stories many times, if I want to ask you, your old husband, if your wife never cook for you and clean your house and doesn't care about children and only thinking about wife herself, what do you think? If you social person, if they get married outside, what they will think? They argue, they judge and blame, and finally they decide to divorce. But how about our attitude, our old husband? If you meet this kind of wife, how about your attitude? You blame also, you fight also, or judge also, or instead of that, if wife's attitude is like this, then husband should say, God, thank you very much for giving this kind of wife. If wife, because my wife didn't do anything, didn't love me, didn't support me, didn't cook, didn't take care of me, that's why I can live for her. I can live for my wife more. I can sacrifice for my wife more. I can invest for my wife more. That's why thank you, God. You gave this kind of spouse. So this is really husbands should be this kind of attitude. So I want to ask all wife also same. If your husband's salary is not good, working is also not well, doesn't work and doesn't help the household, doesn't care the children, doesn't play with children, even doesn't love me and doesn't understand me. If your husband is like that, what you will do? You will say, I don't like I don't need this kind of husband for me. God, maybe you did some kind of mistake. Better to divorce. How do you say like this to your husband? Or instead, God, thank you for giving this kind of husband. Even my husband is not enough. My husband doesn't have so much ability or many kind of lacking point. But because of this husband, I can live, I can invest more, and I can embrace, and I can love, I can grow up myself more. That's why God, I'm really, really appreciate to give this husband. So when we think about international marriage or cross-cultural marriage blessing, is marriage itself is actually not easy things, and cross-cultural marriage blessing is more difficult things. But centering on God's vision, centering on true parents' heart, centering on our heavenly parents' painfulness and wishes, and also eagerly wishing ideal family those heart, then we could overcome. So in Korea, international marriage couple facing difficulty, but because of the vision, because of this heart and love to our heavenly parents and true parents, we could overcome, and all of us are trying to overcome and overcame. So we could see those history of blessing. So today, the number of multicultural families is increasing in the Korean countryside as well as in the cities. Looking closer, we can see that these multicultural families generally comprise a Korean husband and a wife from a developing country and their children. It is not easy for women from other countries to settle in a land where the people have different language and lifestyle. Added to that, more than a few local look down on multicultural families and even reject them. So those situation is easily happen in Korea and maybe another nation also or same. I understand such problems very well. When my husband and I went to the United States in the early 1970s to carry out our mission, I experienced rejection and a sense of isolation that comes from being part of a minority. If this was the case for me in America, a nation with a heterogeneous population, it must be even worse in Korea, a homogeneous nation. Hence, I hope and desire to support these families who have come to establish happy lives in Korea. So mother is also sharing her heart, how much she felt, she received the rejection, and she felt a sense of isolation in America. So living in another country, this is not easy things. And those heart is not understood by the local people. There is some special painfulness, special pain or special kind of the rejection or isolation. There is some kind of feeling, and especially in Korea. Korea is only one races. That's why the another countries, the foreigner go there and live there is really not simple or not easy things. Since the late 1960s, my husband and I have created multicultural families through the marriage blessing ceremony, introducing partners to each other beyond the nation, race, and religious background. An upsurge in multicultural families in Korea was especially seen after our international blessing ceremony for 6,500 Korea-Japanese couples in 1988, the year the Summer Olympics was held in Seoul. At that time, there were not many Korean women willing to marry men in farming villages, and this was becoming a social problem. So parents started this racist marriage blessing from 1960. And maybe some of you in 1988, 6,500 couple blessing. This blessing, especially between Korea and Japan, between the enemy nations. That's why even mother is sharing that. The relationship between Korea and Japan was not good before. Of course, some now also a little bit not good. But in the same time, how about the Korean men? Korean men in the countryside could not find women inside of Korea. So that kind of, there are many those men in Korea. Then how about Japanese women? Go to meet this person and get blessing together. So how difficult situation. For our blessing ceremony, women from Japan and other countries agreed to marry Korean men. Everyone knew this would pose many challenges. The Korean people's sentiment was still strongly anti-Japanese, and many opposed the idea of a Japanese wife or daughter-in-law in Korea. Similarly, in Japan, parents were unhappy with the idea of their daughters or sons marrying someone from Korea, which was less developed economically. So those story, even they get married, they receive blessing, and Japanese wife went to Korea, but you know, Japan was the nation who killed their relative, their parents, their grandparents. So Japanese wife became the wife of Korean family. They receive a persecution, rejection, and also they are ignored so much. So in the beginning, there are so much sacrifice and daily pain and endure so long time, because those situations, this is really not easy things. But how did they do that? However, Japanese unificationist women, understanding faith in God, the concept of filial devotion, and the ideal of living for the sake of others, agreed to marry Korean men and devoted themselves to their families. Brides from countries such as the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand similarly came to Korea and established international blessed families. There were many beautiful outcomes. The women attended their Korean parents-in-law with sincere devotion and created prosperous family. So even the environment, their situation is not easy, but they went to Korea and they lived together for God and for living for the sake of others and overcoming that. And from Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, and another couple, international marriage is not easy, but now they show as the model couple. And those story, not only Japanese side, in Korean side, this Korean husband side is also facing many persecution from Korean friend, Korean relative, even also Japanese wife's parents side. That's why Korean Japan couple, they face so much difficulty. Maybe we can hear if some couple or this Korean Japanese couple. Maybe we had also many times our Dr. Yon sometimes share their story, or another Korean Japanese couples had many stories. Sometimes they are still difficult. And this story is not only between Korea and Japan. International marriage blessing, even maybe all of you have a similar experience, and even your blessing is not international couple, even local, same nation, same nationality. But what is blessing? When we meet the people through the blessing, early time, especially first generation, carry on all past things and to solve together as the representative of our ancestors. That's why basically our first gen is going difficulty or challenging, but through those past situation, our blessed couple overcome well, our first generation overcame or challenge or endure. That's why our second generation is receiving better environment, and also the new first generation era. Now new people coming, those person is more benefit than before. So centering on blessing, how and what kind of really vision and hope is here. That's why True Mother is sharing those story. International cross-cultural marriage blessing looks like not easy things, but centering God's vision and will. This was held from 1960, and now we could see the many kind of vision or example which they overcame, and showing how great family, children, and tradition. So today I share about the True Mother's autobiography, especially the part of the blessing. So all of us are the experiencing, and we are the person who are going and creating this part of this chapter. So really we have a many kind of experience, and really we share to next generation. We overcame, and we are the one who creating the history now. So have a proud more overcoming, and even my generation is difficult. My relationship is difficult, but this itself is already the bigger foundation, bigger sacrifice, bigger endurance. Those things, everything is meaningful. Everything is preparation and foundation for restore the past. That's why please seek and feel our Heavenly Parents' appreciation and really thankfulness to all of you. And now we are creating for next generation. So today also, together with our Heavenly Parents and True Parents' heart, let's create beautiful, beautiful, happy day today. Thank you very much once again. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Reverend Yutaka. As always, you're really enlightening everything for us and making it clearer to see and perceive. Yeah, I was reminded, yes, because 1982 was our blessing, not the, yes, cross-cultural, international, and those same sort of difficulties where the parents-in-laws and on both sides didn't accept, and the first few years of our blessing, you know, our parents-in-laws, both sides didn't approve but it all changed as soon as the first child was born, the grandchild. Then the hearts of the grandparents changed, and they started to appreciate that we were married and blessed. But the experience I want to share was about the Koreans during that time, when they were receiving the matching, because I was staying in the Little Angels school, and Father was matching there, and everyone, because they're all international, came there. Many of the parents weren't there, but because it was in Korea, the parents turned up to the matching, and they all had opinions. And I remember that at the gate of the Little Angels, during the matching process, it was closed, and all the parents were on the outside, and they were really anxious about who they received as their match. And after our matching had passed, and then I came outside and saw, it was like a riot going on. There was so many people at the gate, and shouting and screaming and pushing the gate. There's a lot of security there, stopping the parents from coming in. And what happened was the couple would come down, the Korean, and they would, and it didn't matter if it was a Korean with a Korean, or a Korean with another nation. As soon as the couple came down, the parents of them would come up and be even more intent to see who it is, and they would come over and show the spouse, and if the parents agreed with what was happening, then they opened the gate and let them come in and share with their child. But if the parents didn't agree, it exploded even more. There's more arguments and more situations, and really strongly shouting and angry and pushing the gate, and I was watching this happening, and sometimes it took like 20 or 30 minutes for the parent to, because the child on the other side is pleading with the parent to accept it. And then finally they would say okay and relax and go out. But then I also saw a couple of times where the child relented and said they reject the matching because the parents wouldn't change their mind. And then that child would go through the gate and join the parents and leave. That I only saw that a couple of times, but most of the time I was there, I was watching. That they were so passionate that the parents really wanted to, and I noticed as well that it's because the parents loved the child so much. That's why in the end they relented and said, really, you want this? And they said yes, and then the parents said okay. And it was always, I noticed, the child was the main focus. The parent really wanted their children to be happy, but they were also very strong-minded, that Korean with Korean, but then they're also picky about which Korean was with which Korean. So I don't know if others were there at that time and saw that, but I had that experience watching that, and also that evening when I was walking around the gardens, I had a really, really strong sense that world peace really does come through international marriages. And so that experience still remains with me, very vivid. Okay, thank you. So who would like to share? Yeah, Uncle Randall.
Yep.
Go ahead.
When I called my parents to say that I was matched, my dad was pretty much a racist in many different ways, and there are very few nationalities he could accept. And when I said she was Malaysian, he was all excited and said, "Oh, Chinese Malaysian." And because he was a POW in Changi during the Second World War in Singapore, then he saw all these different racial groups, Indian, Eastern Indians or others, and he had a lot of different complaints about different ones. But with the Allies in Changi, then the Chinese, the Malaysian Chinese, were traditional enemies of the Japanese and would assist the Australian soldiers, and it was very hard to survive as a POW at that time. He also worked on the Burma Railway, and he said that he owes his life to the Chinese Malaysians. So that was the one racial group which, I don't know how far they picked up on it, but it wasn't on my radar when I went to the matching, but that was something that helped my parents. And at one stage, when Reverend Kim was the national leader, he got the members together in Elwood, and he said, yeah, sometimes the matchings aren't all that easy. And then he started sharing something of the difficulties with his wife, and he went around the brothers, brothers and sisters were there, and he went around the brothers and asked, so what's the problem with your wife? And he went around the table, and everyone was getting more and more depressed by all those different things. And when it came round to me, I said, Reverend Kim, I understood that the matchings, the blessings, were to pay historical indemnity to restore all these different problems. And he says, yes. And he says, now I understand the problem with Leighton, because there's no indemnity being matched to her. And, and at that, that was a signal for Mrs. Kim to give him a punch in the shoulder. I think they had a bet that nobody would, you know, would not complain about their wife. But yeah, it's not just indemnity. When you want to unite two different people, if you unite the same, if you unite white and white, I mean, not just racially, but if you just think of a yin and yang, if you unite blue and blue, that's not, you know, really distinct type of thing. But if you unite something, you know, a blue and red, that is beautiful. That is a beautiful kind of combination there. And because of the historical problems that we've been having in the world, to get the variety there is really showing a great harmony. Father was saying at our matching, and I was also at Korea in '82, that, oh, that's my train of thought. I'll have to come back to you with it sometime. I might type it in. But yeah, the whole concept of international blessings is basically displaying to so many people of the world that the problems that we, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was saying that Christians would go to mission countries and they would try to help the people in the other countries. They would learn the language, they would live in the country, but they would live there as a Westerner. They would go to Africa and live as a Westerner, and they would get the people in those countries to dress according to their own culture as Westerners, and they were converting them not to Christianity but to be Westerners. And it was kind of like, this is weird. And then the communists would move in, and the communists would not just live in the country and learn the language, but also live as the locals. They would live in the same type of housing environment, not just try to live in their own culture. But when it came to marriage, those communists wouldn't be able to extend their heart to the point of loving the people there. They would go back to their own culture to marry there. But with the Moonies, then we would go to the country, we would learn the language, we would live like the locals. We had to because we didn't have money. And we would also marry into that culture. And there was one brother at the '82 Korea Blessing. He was from Austria, and he wanted to be a missionary to Africa. And he was actually the grandson of Albert Schweitzer. And when they asked for brothers to, you know, all the African brothers to stand up and he asked during the matching process, he asked for white sisters who wanted black brothers to stand up, and he wanted black brothers who wanted white sisters to stand up, and there weren't enough. And so of a you know, to relate, so he asked for all brothers from the African nation to stand up, and this brother kept sitting down because he didn't want a white sister. And then he asked for the African sisters to stand up, and that's when he stood up. He really wanted to. And he, during the Today's World magazine, he was really focused on, because he really wanted to express this. So anyway, I'm going on a bit, but yeah, Mary Kamara and that they were also matched in the same blessing. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Okay. Yes, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Everybody quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I think that anyway, I guess everyone is so unique and specific, but I found that I think it's quite easier for Western brothers to be matched to Japanese sisters. because Japanese sisters are very serving by their culture, and that, in my case anyway, and I'm sure many others can relate to that very well, very sacrificial and very supportive and very faithful, and that was really a blessing. And I think it probably anyway, I don't know if I'm stepping out the right, but I think Japanese brothers to be matched to Western sisters, from what I have seen, and but not quite as easy, that course. And yeah, but anyway, they are wonderful Japanese brothers. So anyway, maybe I shouldn't say too much there. I'm not in that relationship, but I just feel that they're also very serving as well. But yeah, anyway, it's not easy, I think, in that case, as I felt with being matched to a Japanese sister anyway. So yeah, anyway, we didn't come together as a couple in New Zealand, and I didn't see like as many of you, we didn't start family life very soon. So it was 5 years before Miyuki came to Zambia. So we were both in a different culture altogether. On the topic that Randall mentioned about missionaries going to Africa, yeah, the standard oftentimes of Western countries was quite high, and when you go to Africa to live in an African country, it's quite not easy to adjust to that harsher kind of lifestyle. But when other cultures go to Africa, their standard they're coming from can be quite similar. I know when the Japanese sisters came to Africa, Zambia, to be live together with their African brothers, it was not easy for those Japanese sisters to stay in Africa in that kind of environment. And many of them took their husbands back to Japan from Africa. But in the case of Philippine sisters, wow, they're very tough and very adaptive, So I met many Philippine sisters in Zambia who were really could just fit in and survive, and very helpful, So yeah, anyway, many things, different cultures have different strengths and different standard of living and what they're used to. So there's so many contributing factors to things. Yeah. Anyway, just a few points. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. We have two people with their hand up, and we also got to, so just briefly, because our time is up actually, so just briefly explain what you want to say. So first, Seti or Josephina had their hand up. Go ahead.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I just want to share briefly. Yeah, I could relate to that, what Reverend Yutaka had said about multicultural marriage it is actually in a way an indemnity, but also I think it's also a blessing, Now that I've gone through a lot, I would say it's actually a blessing if you're able to rise above all those difficulties. Yeah, I can relate so much to that, two different cultures come together, and it was, I don't want to go into the detail of it because I don't want to go into tears, but I think it's both sides. My husband and I, he probably went through the same thing. He had expectation as a wife and for a wife, and it's just those, but then anyway, to sum it up, I think I'm so grateful for true parents, even though I went through so much difficulties, probably the same with my husband. But now, how true father, when he was alive, he said, I didn't look at you as a man or a woman, if you're going to be happy for this marriage. I am looking at your future generations, for future descendants. And I think your father is right. Sometimes I'm amazed. When I look at my, some of my children, trying to really live, a life that God wanted them to be. Sometimes I'm so amazed. I feel like, oh yes, I say to myself, oh my God, I feel humbled, like I'm not worthy to have such children. But I'm so grateful because through international marriage, through this marriage that your parents have given me, I'm able to grow my heart. And also practically, I'm able to grow my personality. I can't just be a Filipino, but I'm more like a universal person. I can get along with so many types of people from different walks of life. I can understand the culture of the Pakeha, the Maori, and the Pacific Islands especially, and of course my own people. Yeah, so I'm truly grateful now that I think about it. The true parent is really the Messiah. Thank you.
Yes.
That's all.
Ju, thank you. And Elise, you're the last person, so please be as brief as possible. Thank you. You need to unmute yourself.
So I didn't really want to say something, but just for the record, because our blessing 1978 in London was for European unity. But anyway, I'm from Austria, my husband is English, so it was really the marriage of the enemy countries. And that time in Champion, when we have been for the National Messiah mission, one brother, he was spiritually, he could see, and he described it actually, that my ancestors really have been not very happy because because the English did win the war. So, but my ancestors have been also dedicated to serve God. But anyway, that wasn't acceptable in the eyes of God. So, but I stayed in England and we started home church, and it was very interesting to be how I felt treated in my enemy country. Anyway, so it was but it always was in my mind. To Father said, really, blessing is for our children, and that really kept me going. Anyway, thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. So we'll just offer our unison prayer and pray about the great blessing received by all of us. Okay, just 1 second. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Enjoy the second day of the ILC. Okay.
God bless everyone.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Sarai.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Sarah.
Mrs. Sarai.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.